Trump's aggressive foreign policy inspires a get-together in Beijing. Let's check it out. Hey, and welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Trump's very bold, very aggressive foreign policy on display this week as the U.S. military blew a cartel drug boat out of the water in the Caribbean, killing 11 Tren de Aragua gang members. You saw this video, part of one of the most dangerous criminal organizations in the world, and boom, there they go. And with that, you're reminded of the difference that a president can make. Joe Biden enriched these same cartels by billions of dollars with his policies. The new guy drops bombs right on their heads as they move bags of drugs from Venezuela to the United States. It has been a long time since the U.S. stuck up for itself in this way, instead of just letting all this chaos into the country, and told the world unequivocally, cut the BS. That's happening now. Here was Secretary of State Marco Rubio late this afternoon.
The United States has long, for many, many years, established intelligence that allow us to interdict and stop drug boats. And we did that. And it doesn't work. Interdiction doesn't work because these drug cartels, what they do is they know they're going to lose, 2% of their cargo. They bake it into their economics. What will stop them is when you blow them up, when you get rid of them. A drug boat was headed towards eventually the United States, and instead of interdicting it on the president's orders, he blew it up. And it'll happen again.
And it'll happen again. My favorite part. How satisfying to have cojones back in the White House. Just blow them up. They're bringing in drugs that have poisoned and killed hundreds of thousands of our people. Hundreds of thousands of our citizens. Sometimes 100,000 Americans die a year from these drugs. Think if anything else killed 100,000 people. Think if another country shot 100,000 people, what we would do. Blow them up. No more arresting, no more drug seizures, no more interdictions. A bomb on the head. Apparently given at Trump's orders after he decided to escalate what was going to be another very simple drug interdiction. Stop the boat, get the drugs out. Trump said, nah, just drop a bomb. It's great. All part of the White House's new no-nonsense approach to foreign policy, which isn't very popular in Washington, of course. Reporters asking all day today why the cartel drug runners had to die without due process.
On the boat, you had massive amounts of drugs. We have tapes of them speaking. It was massive amounts of drugs coming into our country to kill a lot of people. And everybody fully understands that. In fact, you see it. You see the bags of drugs all over the boat. And they were hit. Obviously, they won't be doing it again. And I think a lot of other people won't be doing it again when they watch that tape. They're going to say, let's not do this. We have to protect our country, and we're going to.
We do this a couple more times. Wait till you see what happens to drugs coming into the country. Much like his approach to crime, enough patience, it's time to drop a hammer. It's a cut the BS campaign, and Trump's launched it against much of the world. You can obviously see what we're now doing to cartel crime and drugs. We're seeing it on trade through tariffs as well. Drop the hammer. Make a fair deal for yourself. You can ease the pain, but you will pay for access to the United States. We've given you far too much of our capital for far too long. Finally, letting the U.S. reap the benefits of having the most sought-after marketplace in the world. And all of these people who work so hard, who buy so much crap. You want to get into this market, you're going to pay. But perhaps one unintended consequence of Trump's tough stances is playing out this week in China, where Xi Jinping is hosting effectively a bad guy party. All the dictators and despots hanging out together in Beijing. Russian President Putin, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, right there. Get into a car with Putin. Some wild video coming out of Beijing. The leaders of Iran, Cuba, Pakistan, other countries as well, Mongolia, all taking in a military parade in the Chinese capital. Even India's leader, Narendra Modi, came to this as well, who doesn't really fit the bill of a dictator. At one point, you just saw it there, he actually walked in holding hands with Vladimir Putin. Modi likely flirting with the bad guys to get even with Trump for punishing tariffs over how much oil his country, India, has been buying off the Russians. Trump commented on the China summit earlier today at the White House.
I I understood the reason they were doing it, and they were hoping I was watching, and I was watching. My relationship with all of them is very good. We're going to find out how good it is over the next week or two.
The White House's moves to recalibrate the world order, which we have seen over the last 6-7 months and during his first term, and flex a little to the world, are wholly justified. What we're doing and how we're handling foreign policy is the right way to do it. For far too long, the U.S. has been manipulated by the rest of the world. And our leaders here domestically have been too fat, happy, and apathetic and weak to respond as other nations have eaten our lunch. We've seen it time and time again. This is how Trump got elected. Trade scams, currency manipulation, intellectual property theft, tariffs and non-tariff trade barriers. And from some countries, we've seen far worse. How many nations that we kind of call allies are working endlessly to undermine our position in the world all the time? They finally woke the bear. Trump is the bear. That's how Trump got elected. The question is, how will these manipulators that we've been dealing with respond now that the United States has clearly grown a spine? All right, we have a special guest here in the studio. Ben Shapiro is the host of The Ben Shapiro Show and author of the new book, Lions and Scavengers, right there on the screen, and we will talk about that here in a minute. But first, Ben, it's good to have you. I want to start with what's happening right now in China. You got all the troublemakers together. You got Xi, you got Putin, Kim Jong-un, Iran's president, all there together. We've never seen something like that before. We've never seen Xi put something together like that before. At the same time, I feel like it's a response kind of to what Trump's been doing around the world, which is kind of this cut the BS campaign. He's basically saying to the rest of the world, you're going to treat us fair, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. He went after India the other day regarding how much oil they're buying from Russia, things like that. Do you think that that's kind of the retaliation for the way the president's running foreign policy here in this country?
I do think that that's what's going on. I think China sees an opening. I think what China believes is that they were being boxed out by President Trump, and now that President Trump is going after, say, South Korea or India or Japan with tariffs, that might be an opening for them to start making some hay with countries that were sort of in the middle, maybe even leaning toward America. And I think that's why you're seeing sort of the offensive charm campaign from both Xi and Putin toward, for example, Modi in India. I think that they're trying to reorient India away from the so-called Quad, which is the United States, Japan, Australia, and India. If they can pull India away, that would be a pretty strong geopolitical move.
And I've been a big fan of the foreign policy we've seen from this administration. I think it's been brilliant. I think that there were I think we get taken advantage of. I think we're like the rich guy that everybody just kind of abuses. That's kind of our position in the world, has been for a long time. But it is interesting that, if that level of foreign policy kind of pushes all of that part of the world closer together, does that become a liability?
I mean, I do think that this is the difference between President Trump's foreign policy and then his tariff policy. And sometimes these two are in opposition. So the president has been very smart, for example, about going after Modi and cultivating Modi. I mean, they have a very good and warm relationship.
They're friends.
Until this gigantic tariff fight that he has now entered into, going after India for consuming Russian oil. That sort of move does have the unintended downstream effect of pushing India toward China, toward Russia, which is not exactly what you're looking for. Again, I think the president is going to end up in the right place, because I trust that the president, he's heterodox in his approach, but he's also responsive to world events. He doesn't continue to put his hand in the fire if it burns. And so I think that if it turns out that an anti-American power bloc is consolidating, I think the president shifts course.
And maybe they pull India back, and they're cutting deals. I'm sure they're all talking right now. I want to get to some other topics here. I thought it was so interesting this week when last week when the president disappeared for a few days. The media that told us all along Joe Biden was just fine explodes with he's dead or he's severely injured. All the theories are everywhere. They're all over MSNBC. He returns now on Monday and just blows the room up again, takes a million questions. He's correcting reporters. Everything seems to be fine. The hypocrisy of that, to me, was just unbelievable.
Well,
go ahead. Yeah.
I think that they just have to keep retailing successful Republican talking points, but in reverse. So it was a reality that Joe Biden was not an alive person for the last couple of years of his administration. And they kept claiming that he was, and we were all lying about it, and our eyes were lying to us and all of this. And now they're trying to take that and just sort of flip it on its head and say, well, actually, the person who's really not alive is Donald Trump. But, of course, Donald Trump is the most ubiquitous president in American history. I mean, he's everywhere all the time. So if he goes missing for about 11 minutes, they assume he's dead because he's
not talking.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what's happening? What's happened? But he's very much obviously alive and kicking. It also shows the unbelievable wish casting of some of these folks, like Tim Walz, actually making jokes about his hopes at some point that the president is going to die. I mean, like that guy was almost vice president of the United States and is the current governor of Minnesota, and he literally made a joke about that like, one day ago.
And I mean, we saw Colbert, the audience, groaning when Colbert says that the president's still alive. I mean, what they've created is just so ugly. The new book you got, and we can put it up here on the screen. I can show it right here with my hand. You talk about Western civilization. It's being picked apart by scavengers, which is something we've talked about on this show a lot too. We have Zoran Mamdani here in New York, who's an inch away from becoming the next mayor of this city. I even read today that the White House was considering offering things to Curtis Sliwa and to Eric Adams to drop out because there's a new poll that shows Cuomo would beat Mamdani in a one-on-one race. Is that an example of the kind of things you talk about in here and just what's happening to our great society?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, basically what I'm contrasting are people who wish to build, who wish to increase social fabric, who wish to be productive and innovative and risk-seeking and make the country a better place, and people who see every one of their individual grievances as a responsibility of all those systems and then seek to tear it down. Many of those people are the most privileged members of our society. Mamdani is like apex predator here. I mean, he really is a scavenger in every manifestation. He despises America on the foreign policy front. He believes that private property and free markets are inherently evil. He's somebody who wants to trans the children in New York. There really isn't an institution that he isn't seeking to absolutely eviscerate. And he's doing so from the perch of somebody who has never held a real job, who's been rich basically his entire life and has been privileged in every way it's possible to be privileged. And then he wants to rip down all those systems. He's prototypical scavenger.
It's so true, and we said the same thing the other day. Looking at all of these judges, we have these Obama and Biden judges that they all have obvious loyalties. We had one named Sparkle the other day from Trinidad and Tobago. She has obvious loyalties outside of this country, and they create these rulings, and you can just tell they just see this as just a wealthy land that should be pillaged by the rest of the world. That's how they feel about the United States, because I don't think they have America's best interest at heart.
I mean, there definitely is a cadre of the left that is very much this. Now, I don't want to say that every Democrat is like this, because I don't believe that every Democrat fully wants to tear down America in every possible way. But I do think that the bleeding edge of the Democratic Party believes that America is at its root sinful and evil and responsible for all the cruelties and malice in the world, and therefore we have to take all those institutions and level them.
Lions and scavengers. Ben Shapiro, thanks for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Good to see you. All right. All right, Senator Rand Paul, chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, joins us now. Senator, good to have you back on. I want to start with the bombing of that cartel boat, which, I personally think that's a brilliant deterrent to this kind of activity. Is that how you see it?
I guess, it's hard to have any sympathy for drug dealers, trying to import product into our country. But at the same time, I guess you might ask the question, where does it end? Are we the world's policemen, the international policemen? Are we going to be blowing people up off the coast all around the world trying to interdict? Really, I'm not sure we have the finances to be the world's policeman. So on the face of it, sounds good. Nobody's going to have any kind of lost love for a bunch of drugs going down in the ocean and killing some gang members. But at the same time, really, where does it end? And is it really the constitutional duty of our government to be, policing international drug trade everywhere around the world?
If it's Tren de Aragua sending drugs into this country, though, that there's obviously a line there. I don't think we're going to be bombing people taking drugs from Africa into Europe, right?
Well, no, if it's coming into our country, I think interdicting drugs coming into our country, absolutely, there is a U.S. interest in that. But that's a real question. I don't know the details of where the drugs were going. They may well have been coming to our country, but this was done off the coast of another country. So it is a little bit different. It is unique. Hadn't been done really in decades, where we have a kinetic action against another group inside their territorial waters.
Yeah, I mean, you have a criticism of it, or a slight criticism of it, in one direction. The one that we've seen the most, though, has been from most of the media, has been, as here's an example from BBC, the fact that U.S. officials describe the individuals killed by the U.S. strike as narco-terrorists does not transform them into lawful military targets. The U.S. is not engaged in an armed conflict with Venezuela or Tren de Aragua. The strike runs afoul to the right to life under international human rights law. So the president basically said that these guys are terrorists. You can kill terrorists. You can't, I guess, kill drug dealers just for dealing drugs, right?
Well, this is, brings up a question. So, we assume these people were bad people and drug dealers, but if they were caught off the coast of Miami, we would stop the boat. If they don't shoot at us, we don't shoot at them. They're confiscated, they're put in jail, and then they go through a trial to prove what they were doing. And if they have 20 pounds of cocaine or heroin or something on the boat, they'll be convicted. The reason we have trials, though, and we don't automatically assume guilt is, what if we make a mistake and they happen to be people fleeing Venezuela, the Venezuelan dictator? I think probably that, we had the facts correct. We got bad people here. But that's the reason, like off our coast, it isn't our policy just to blow people up. We don't blow up ships entering our waters unless they're, hell-bent on attacking another ship, or unless they are resisting with gunfire. Right. We arrest people. So it is difficult, and it's hard because obviously they're bad people. So people are like, they want something bad to happen to them. But typically, even the worst people in our country, if we accuse somebody of a terrible crime, they still get a trial, basically. They get a lawyer, they get their day in court.
Yeah. But if we're at war, we blow up bad guys all the time. I think that's what they're saying. This is a war, and we do have. I mean, obviously, you know the numbers of how many people in this country die from illicit drugs that come in from Central and South America. A lot of them have fentanyl and other very dangerous ingredients in them. I mean, people drop dead all the time. I mean, they kill 100,000 people a year on a bad year. 100,000 Americans dying. That does kind of feel like a war.
It's also why in our country war is the exception. So when we have a war, it was intended that we would declare war, be a big vote of our Congress, and then at that point in time we say, if that enemy, if we are at war, let's say with Venezuela, then we say their ships are free to shoot them anywhere they are, anytime. And so we kill them off their coast, we kill them in their country, but we've declared war on them. It's a little harder here because this is a crime and this is a criminal syndicate. So look, once again, no love lost for the people who died that are trying to infiltrate our country with this filth. But at the same time, you have to realize it's not as simple as it may sound that, oh, let's just kill drug dealers, because sometimes you have to figure out who people are before you kill them. That's the problem.
Yeah. I want to switch here before I run out of time. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, many other nations as well, smaller nations, gathering in Beijing for, I guess, Xi Jinping's bad guy party. And I wanted to ask you, this seems to me to be the result of Trump effectively calling out and ending the abusive behaviors that our establishment in this country have allowed for the past several years, if not decades. Very abusive behaviors from these bad nations against our country, while also getting a piece of our wealth or access to our markets. Trump is ending that and is calling out a lot of that as well. And it seems like he's kind of pushed the bad guys all together for this summit. Is that how you see it?
Maybe. It might be ironic if in the end the protectionist flavor of the day, the tariffs that we're putting on, if it brought together our enemies and ultimately led to the collapse of the reserve currency of the world, that would be ironic that it didn't actually work the way we intended. I don't think we know that yet. Okay. But we do see our enemies and our adversaries coming together, but not just China and Russia, North Korea and Iran. We also see India and others being pushed away. So if you put a 50% tariff on India's goods, India will become closer to China and closer to Russia. So I think really that we ought to think some of these things through before we put exorbitant tariffs on countries that are potentially and have been our friends, like India.
So that means you got to let a lot of countries just kind of eat our lunch to keep them away from moving toward badder or worse countries?
That's based on a misconception or a fallacy that trade is bad for us. Trade actually has enriched us. We have gotten richer and richer and richer as a country over the last 70 years. All of the statistics show this, from household income to even manufacturing output. There's been a lamentation that, oh, we don't make anything anymore. If you look at manufacturing growth from the 1970s on versus the 1950s and 60s, we actually grew manufacturing output at a greater rate than we did back in what people think are the halcyon days of the 50s and 60s. So there's a lot of fallacies with regard to trade. Trade, when it's done freely, is mutually beneficial. No trade occurs in the world unless both parties think they're getting a good deal. So to say that a bunch of people buy a product at Walmart and then we draw a circle around them. We say, oh, all those TVs they bought were from China. We got ripped off from China. How does that happen when all million customers went to Walmart and they all felt like they got a good deal? That's why they made the trade. So there are some fallacies involved with this, but the biggest fallacies are that we are being ripped off or being made poorer. We actually are becoming richer and richer as a nation over the past 7, 8, 9 decades.
Interesting conversation as always. Senator Rand Paul, we appreciate it. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Notice he never talks about where the most violent crime is occurring, which is in red states.
8 of the top 10 murder states in this country, red states.
Well, they've been saying this for a while, right? Trump's crime crackdown is all politics. It is another lie debunked. It appears Louisiana is next. Trump eyes New Orleans coming up.
There are a lot of cities in red states where the president is not suggesting sending the National Guard.
Notice he never talks about where the most violent crime is occurring, which is in red states.
8 of the top 10 murder states in this country, red states. What bull? And everyone knows it. Everybody knows it. Again, it's acts of authoritarian.
Everyone knows Gavin is the BS. Dems were certain that Trump would never send the National Guard into a red state, which has a dangerous deep blue city inside of it. But earlier today, Trump eviscerated another ridiculous narrative, saying that he's soon going to be sending the National Guard to clean up New Orleans, a crime-ridden blue city inside of red Louisiana.
We're making a determination now. Do we go to Chicago, or do we go to a place like New Orleans, where we have a great governor, Jeff Landry, who wants us to come in and straighten out a very nice section of this country that's become quite tough, quite bad. So we're going to be going to maybe Louisiana, and you have New Orleans, which has a crime problem. We'll straighten that out in about 2 weeks.
Oh, did he just say that there's cities inside of red states that have crime problems? Oh, he did. Oh, that's another narrative blown up. Trish Regan is the host of the Trish Regan podcast. CPAC Chairman Matt Schlapp also with us. Trish, this topic has been humiliating the leaders of these big, blue, dangerous cities, pretending that they don't have a crime problem. They sound terrible on this. And now the president just neutralized one of their only arguments, which is that he's just doing this for politics.
Yeah, because you know what, a lot of the red states, they take the help. I mean, why would you look a gift horse in the mouth, right? Yeah. Somebody's willing to give you help, help you police your streets, and you're going to turn that away. If you actually think about this, and I hate to reduce this to politics, but it is brilliant politics, because you're putting them completely in the position of saying, oh, we're fine with crime. Totally. Sure, we're fine with it. We're not going to take any extra help. We don't need any resources from the federal government to manage our crime problem when it's out of control. And so, again, from a political perspective, this really makes Democrats feel like they're kind of the bad guys. And Donald Trump's there saying, hey, let me give you a helping hand. And they don't want it.
It's been fantastic politically. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think this is really what the whole theme is about. You have a Democratic Party that's doubling down on insane policies. And, the Petri dish, sadly for the people who live there, are these big, broken, blue, bankrupt blue cities. And, obviously they got several of them in California, so I don't even know why Gavin Newsom has a right to talk. But New York City, we've seen Chicago, Washington, D.C. I mean, almost every state has a major city run completely by socialists that have these insane policies. And crime is just not a political issue. Yeah. Nobody likes murder. Nobody likes carjackings. It is strange to me that the Democratic Party wants to normalize that a certain amount of murder is okay.
Yeah, and nobody, I'm out of time, but there's not one regular person that lives in these cities that really cares that the National Guard is there. Nobody's actually intimidated by this. Nobody thinks this is some kind of federal takeover of their city. They just want to see a safer environment there. They want to see less criminals, a nicer neighborhood, less graffiti, less nonsense, less, a higher quality of life. Got to leave it there. Trish Regan, Matt Schlapp, good to see you both. Thanks, guys. Epstein victims demand transparency and justice on Capitol Hill. Coming up next.
I was one of dozens of girls that I personally know who were forced into Jeffrey's mansion.
I was taken to Jeffrey Epstein's island while on a photo shoot on a nearby island. Who I saw and what I experienced there was was a glimpse into a very dark and disturbing world.
It's time for us to see beyond the curtain. Why was Jeffrey Epstein so protected? Who is still being protected?
This is about ending secrecy wherever abuse of power takes root.
We are demanding today on the discharge petition that all of the files be released. This is a message that we are sending. This is a litmus test. Can we drain the swamp?
All right, there was Congressman Thomas Massie there at the end getting support, actually, from 3 of the most MAGA women in Congress as he does this one right there. He continues to push for the complete release of everything Epstein, a fight that has irritated the president for the past several months and has divided Republicans, too. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Nancy Mace are now all in Massie's corner on this. At a Capitol News conference today, Lisa Phillips, an Epstein victim, announced that she and other survivors are going to compile and create their own Epstein client list. Take a listen to this.
Us Epstein survivors have been discussing creating our own list. We know the names. Many of us were abused by them. Now, together as survivors, we will confidentially compile the names we all know.
So that's interesting. Congressman Massie filing an Epstein files discharge petition on Tuesday, attempting to force a House vote on releasing the information. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Boebert, and Mace have all signed this now. Also on Tuesday, the House Oversight Committee under James Comer announced the release of more than 33,000 Epstein-related records provided to them by the DOJ. These are both happening at the same time. Trump asked today about claims that the DOJ is protecting high-level people that might have loyalties to both political parties in Washington and were involved with Epstein. Take a listen.
This is a Democrat hoax that never ends. From what I understand, thousands of pages of documents have been given, but it's really a Democrat hoax because they're trying to get people to talk about something that's totally irrelevant to the success that we've had as a nation since I've been president. I know that no matter what you do, it's going to keep going. We're having the most successful 8 months of any president ever. And that's what I want to talk about. That's what we should be talking about, not the Epstein hoax.
All right, so let's bring in Congressman Thomas Massie to talk more about this, and it's good to have you back on. I feel for him in a way when he talks about the hoax part, because, again, nobody cared about this for 4 years. You know, the last president, Democrats, nobody cared about it. The media didn't really talk about it, and now all of a sudden they want to talk about this all the time. So I do think there's a lot of political nature to this. But let's start here. One of the victims today, Shantae Davies, said that she was taken on a trip to Africa with Bill Clinton and other notable figures. I thought that was a big moment from your press conference today. And you said today that high-level donors and other figures from both parties are being protected by the government because they are in that world. They're so powerful. They have such deep connections to the government in both parties. Let's start there. If you know that, and you said that today at the news conference, can we start and ask if you can give us some of these names that we all want to hear?
Well, let me give you the name of one of the billionaires who's running $2 million of ads in my district since I started this effort. His name is John Paulson. He's a hedge fund manager and a major donor to the Republican Party, a major donor to the Speaker of the House, a major donor to the president's campaign, and he's in Epstein's Black Book. Now, that's public, but that's indicative of the types of people who may be implicated or just embarrassed by a complete release of these files.
And that's why you believe that, you know, even as we watch this new government come in, this new Trump government that promised so much transparency, that is so transparent in most regards, you believe that's why we're not getting this full release that you've been demanding, is because there are so many high-level donors that might be connected to the Republican Party or to both parties that they want to protect?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Listen, the survivor's lawyer said that 9 years ago, President Trump helped them with their case by giving them contacts and helping them track this stuff down.
Right.
And it was just 9 months ago that the entire administration was for releasing these files. The problem is they've done a 180-degree turn on this. You mentioned that Republicans are split. Only in Congress, in the swamp, are Republicans split on this. Back home, all of my Republicans are united. They want us to keep our promise and release these files.
What do you think that, I mean, you just said the 180 split, and we know that the president has long been an advocate for victims of Epstein, and they talked this up so big. Why would that 180 twist happen? I mean, what do they know now that they didn't know before is, I guess, what I'm trying to figure out, because that's a strange allegation to make.
Well, first of all, like you said, some of the donors to the Republican Party, billionaire donors. Also, if you go back and look at the first Epstein case where he got off very lightly and was able to recommit these crimes and commit them for years because of that light plea deal, that was part of Acosta, who's now in the administration. Right. He probably doesn't want to go look at that. And even in those documents, he said that Epstein was above his pay grade, that he was connected to government intelligence. So this isn't a conspiracy theory. These are the words of somebody who's now working in the Trump administration. I think they've literally been told to try to sweep this thing under the rug. The problem is it's not a hoax. There are survivors. There are hundreds of survivors. And we heard from some of them today who've never spoken publicly.
Yeah, it was something to hear today, and the fact that you have, the three of the most MAGA women in Congress in your corner as well, does speak to this. It's just, there's a juxtaposition here that's so strange. Comer and the Oversight Committee just dumped 33,000 pages out that they were given to them by the DOJ. A source within that committee, which is kind of competing with you on handling this Epstein situation, has said this about your efforts. This is somebody from Oversight saying that your resolution doesn't require the House to take depositions. It doesn't require the Epstein estate to provide documents or require Treasury to produce bank record suspicious activity documents either. They said that Oversight is doing all of that, trying to marginalize the effort that you're making. They're saying effectively that Oversight is handling this and handling it appropriately. And I also want to point out, too, that you actually had one of the people that you brought to this news conference today, and we're not going to play the soundbite, but it was one of the attorneys did say that it's very important that, that when they release this, that you don't just dump all the names out, that this has to be redacted to protect the victims. Yeah. That's her right there speaking in the video there. That's somebody that you brought to your news conference today that's basically saying we can't just dump it all out the way I think you've been advocating for.
No. The reason those survivors showed up at my press conference to support my bill is it does have protections for them. And so that's one of the mistruths that's been stated about my bill. Look, I support Jamie Comer's efforts. He's one of my best friends up here. He's from Kentucky. Yeah. I used to serve on the Oversight Committee. And I talked to him this morning. I showed him that all the flight logs that the DOJ has given him that's in that 34,000 document dump, all of them are redacted. Like, the DOJ is curating, they're not just redacting, they're choosing what to send the Oversight Committee. But generally, I support what the Oversight Committee is doing. The more eyeballs we have on this, the better. And I'm glad they're doing it, and I'm glad they're doing other things. But what's not true is that his effort and my effort are redundant, because his effort is mostly focused at the DOJ to see if they dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's and checked all the boxes when they did their investigation. I don't anticipate, and I'm not sure that he does either, although you should get him on and ask him, whether there will be any criminal referrals even from that Oversight Committee investigation. But I'm glad he's doing it. Here's the problem. The DOJ is picking and choosing, and my bill doesn't allow them to do that. My bill has exceptions for victims' identifiable information, but it doesn't allow them to redact things that they think might be embarrassing to billionaire donors. But that's exactly what the DOJ is doing right now.
What a story. We're going to continue to follow this one, Congressman. We appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, coming up here, bottom feeder politicians have turned the UK into a Middle Eastern migrant camp and are now throwing anybody who complains about this into jail. This is a look at the dystopian future that we are all terrified of. This is government when it gets out of control, and we've got a much closer look at it coming up next. Welcome Welcome back. The UK giving us a look at a dystopian future, and it is terrifying. Free speech is gone. Recently, a comedian, Graham Linehan from Ireland, detained upon arrival at Heathrow Airport in London by 5 armed officers, suspicion of initiating violence on trans people, all over a post on X that wrote a photo you can literally see, or photo you can smell, about this picture right here. They tracked his flight home and they sent a cadre of police officers to the airport for that tweet. That's life in the UK. I'd be arrested every day. Another woman arrested last week for flying a British flag during a migrant hotel protest. She was arrested for flying her own flag in her own country. And look at these stooge cops that just do whatever the hell the politicians want. This is government. This is what government becomes. My next guest is an American living in the UK describing, and went viral, describing how insane it is. Take a look.
It's a government against its own people. It's created two-tier justice, and this is all through leftist ideologies.
Avery Daye joins us now to talk more about this. And Avery, it's good to see you. You're an American living in England. They've destroyed the country. They destroyed the culture. They've dumped as much of the Middle East into your country as they possibly can, and they've gone crazy on every other issue. And I think they just want to silence. They know it's not popular with the people, so they just got to shut them up, right?
Yeah, so to be clear, if I was still in the UK, I would be arrested. So I'm actually back in America.
Okay.
It's that dire there. I do not feel safe. All of my friends are terrified living there. They're all looking for their escape out. It is quite literally a government against its own people. We're having people being arrested for saying, "I love pigs." We're having people being arrested for waving their own flag. This is a crisis. If this is not an invasion, I don't know what is. It's an attack, and they're openly saying it and calling for it.
I've watched what has happened in this country, and they have done the most vile decisions you can make for a country. And we saw a little bit of it in the United States when they just opened up our borders as well. But they've turned, a lot of, I just had friends go to London. They said that it's like a migrant camp in the city of London. They know that the people hate this. They know that what they're doing is devastating to the nation. And rather than just abide by that, they just have to suppress, I guess, any malintent towards the decisions that they've made. They just have to turn it off and cancel people.
Well, what I worry about is the future generations, because this is not sustainable. Under Starmer's government, you have a mass exodus of millionaires. You have a millionaire leaving every 45 minutes, and it's probably even higher than that since those stats came out. So this is not a sustainable culture, because these migrants are coming in and they are on benefits at higher rates. They're unemployed at higher rates. They are not contributing to society. And they're a net negative. They're committing crimes at higher rates. They're raping our women and children at higher rates. And it's not sustainable. We have a report came out recently that said there is not a single white British child in 1 in 72 schools across the UK. That British children are a minority in 1 in every 4 schools across the UK. This has dire consequences to future generations. And it's irreversible. Yeah, it's societal suicide by overly empathetic left-wing politicians is what it is. It is.
And it's terrifying. Avery, thanks for coming on and describing it to us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, some news here from Newsmax itself. Newsmax Broadcasting, the company that owns this network and other media, filed a lawsuit today in federal court against Fox News and the Fox Corporation. Newsmax lawsuit that Fox has engaged in illegal activities to block Newsmax and other conservative networks from appearing on cable and pay TV systems around the country, trying to make it harder for us to get onto all the boxes so everybody can see us. Newsmax states this is a direct violation of federal law. In the suit, Newsmax claims Fox's actions led to higher cable prices for cable consumers and blocked alternative conservative viewpoints from appearing to millions of Americans out there. Newsmax also alleged Fox had engaged in other activities unbecoming of a major news network, including paying for online smear campaigns aimed at Newsmax and its executives. You can go to Newsmax.com and read more about that lawsuit. Stephen Colbert's audience very upset the president is still alive.
For the record, Donald Trump is very much alive, okay? And no...
Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. Trump back to answering dozens of questions from the White House all this week, dashing away the hopes of the worst of the American left that the president might actually be dead. Take a listen to the audience at a taping of Stephen Colbert's soon-to-be-killed show.
When I came back in the office, I was shocked to learn that this weekend, the biggest story was frenzied social media rumors speculating whether Donald Trump had died. For the record, Donald Trump is very much alive, okay? And no, we like our presidents alive.
CBS for you. That's CBS, not for long. Next up, California Democrat Judy Chu claims the local government had everything under control when Trump sent the National Guard into L.A. Take a listen.
Well, yesterday, I just returned from Los Angeles. That is where Trump sent 4,000 National Guardsmen and 700 Marines to our area when our local law enforcement had everything well under control.
The delusion of these people. Let's take that video full for a second. This is everything well under control in the city of LA, according to Judy Chu. This is how much these politicians, this is the amount of disdain they have for the people that live in these communities. They couldn't care less because Judy Chu's house is not right there. And finally, Lori Lightfoot, former mayor of Chicago, says crime in Chicago is a manufactured crisis.
If he comes to Chicago, he's going to be in court, and he's going to be sued by the state. He's going to be sued by the city. This is not about violent crime, and I don't think we should pretend that this manufactured crisis and his attempt to provoke people in Chicago is legitimate exercise of power. It is not.
Wild how little black politicians care about black-on-black crime. 8 murdered, 58 shot. It's like worse than Baghdad, but whatever. Lori, we'll be right back. And finally tonight, Jeffrey Epstein making headlines years after his death. We talked about it earlier. The American people demanding transparency for his crimes and the files that we believe hold the truth. Ken Chandler is executive editor of Newsmax Media. This month's issue called Why Jeffrey Epstein Won't Die. And Ken, tell us what's in this issue.
So the reason Jeffrey Epstein won't die is there is obviously a well-founded suspicion that there are men involved in this scandal who have never been brought to justice because they're rich, they're powerful, and they're influential. And they committed crimes that if you and I had done, we'd be in prison by now. But the system, the establishment, the swamp, whatever you want to call it, is protecting them.
And it's you know, that's the big question, because it's so interesting that we have this administration in here that, you know, people elect Donald Trump because they want a change agent and they want transparency. That's what he offers. That's right. And that's what they offered all through the transition, too. And they talked about this story ad nauseum. And then something changed. Yeah. And all of a sudden, you know, there just feels like there's a pullback there. And that's the million-dollar question.
Right. So, you know, it is very frustrating. And when I first started covering this Jeffrey Epstein scandal, it was a Democratic scandal, right? Yeah. Because the people, the men that were alleged to be involved were Democrats. Yeah. And now it's kind of infecting this administration because this administration, like previous administrations, doesn't seem to be able to get their arms around it and tell us what really happened. Yeah. I mean, it's not that complicated, right? Yeah. It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be, and that's what's in the issue. Ken, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
All right, Newsmax Magazine has hard-hitting investigative journalism, insider political analysis, the truth the mainstream media won't print. You can call or go online and check it out. And Finnerty is up next. We'll see you back here tomorrow night. You know, everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmitt tonight on Newsmax.